stay pouring all over the court. Check your trade scoring, a rational activist. Others remain dormant, factual passages. Able to wage war when time call for it. Burn fire upon corporate setting his back. Sun is fall forward. See the big picture. Don't get stuck on small portraits. Tap resources, your three inner forces. Mind, body, and soul working like piano chords. Linking the piece together from the root like Neanderthals. Reserving animalistic behavior when I convert into the satanic spiritual savior. Words that are used are the truth if I never gave ya anything else in your life. Remember words that I breathed on this mic. I print people a copy to read what I write. Tell it fast like Mach speed on a bike. Like a native chief, I speak and bring peace with a pipe. Subtle as a thief in the night with peace in a light. Check the I'm blacking out like Slobodan Milosevic. Hold that, take some with you. Eternal pain when New Jerusalem hit you. Fall back, don't press the issue with script, lock, script, check, Bethlehem officials.
What up, yo? What's going on? It's Big Ford Entertainment and my boy Terrence here. We are back to talk about some Tales from the Walking Dead. We missed last week, but we're back again for this week to talk about the last two episodes. How you doing, Terrence? Okay, Terrence is not available for comment now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I'm all right, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can't complain, man. Last week we didn't get to do our episodes, but this week we're going to be talking about Tales from the Walking Dead, man.
All right, sounds good.
Other than that, how was your week?
It was all right. Did a lot of different things with humans that I know. A lot of conversations, training. Made some good money too. So not really anything negative per se. Aside from like maybe certain behavior, but it's just kind of just go with the punches. But as far as I'm concerned, like everything is fine.
Good. And tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on T-Virus Terrence. I am going to be making my final set of videos coming up, and I'm going to schedule them to drop on the channel accordingly. And at some point, I will become a ghost on this platform.
And what's that date? What's the date you decide that you are done? Do you have a date in mind?
Well, yeah, 2023 is when I will be done indefinitely, but probably in terms of like a final video drop, that would be probably sometime in December in terms of the last official video that would drop on the channel.
Gotcha. And then in 2023, will you be like going on other people's streams, or you're just done completely?
Oh, no. I'm going to become a ghost in general. So yeah, there won't be no streaming or none of that kind of stuff. Like I may like watch some stuff on the platform from time to time, but I won't really be physically present in that sense.
What up, Tony Robinson? So you don't even plan to watch motherfucker streams, right? So I do a stream, you don't even plan to watch it, eh?
I might check out some stuff. But, you know, when I say I'm a ghost, it just means that I won't be active how I was, meaning there won't be any posts or videos on my channel. I won't be doing live streams in the sense of me being on a panel. Like that kind of stuff will be gone. But, you know, I may watch some stuff. I might even comment on stuff from time to time, but that would be the furthest that I would do once 2023 comes around.
I got you. And is there any reason why you came up with this decision? Oh, what's up, Tony Robinson? He said, damn, no one can review porn like Terrence. You don't know. But yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I had, when I first started on the platform, I didn't really have like a whole amount of time in which I was going to do it. My brother invited me on his channel, and then that whole thing took off, and then I was like, I'll just keep doing it for a bit, and wasn't really sure at the time when I was going to depart, but I was thinking about, okay, if I'm on here for like 10 years, that should be fine. And then I thought about that briefly and fell away from it. And then I started thinking about it again. 10 years is plenty of time to have a certain chapter in your existence. So I figured that it would be time for me to close the book on this particular venture and move on into the
Right.
darkness.
I got you. I got you. Well, you know, you're always welcome on the platform whenever if you ever decide to come back, you're always welcome on the shows and stuff like that. You'll definitely be missed, bro.
I see. I appreciate the sentiment. It's interesting because I know that there are humans that respect me and that are fond of me, but I don't want
Hmm.
to be egotistical in the sense that, just because I vanish, there's going to be like all this, like, oh, I miss you kind of stuff. Like, the platform will still continue as is. So I don't really think that me vanishing is going to have like an impact to that degree.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, yeah. The platform will exist, but your friends and shit. We all gonna miss you. There's gonna definitely be a reaction to that. The fuck am I gonna fucking review Walking Dead with after this shit? Danny don't watch it.
Yeah, I see your points. Yep, but I try to make sure that I'm being realistic about any given situation and how humans may respond to things, and then also my own position within that stratosphere. So in this case,
Hmm.
being YouTube.
Yeah, well, you gotta do what's best for you. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, yeah, people gonna miss you. People gonna miss you. I'll miss you. That's for sure. Like,
Well,
what the fuck, man?
good thing you can still get a hold of me, so it should be
Yeah, I
fine.
can. Yeah, I can. I mean, I don't really need to do a stream to talk to you, right? So,
Right.
but we're not here to talk about all of that. You finished shouting out your channel?
Yeah, yeah.
We are here to talk about episode 4 first of Tales from the Walking Dead. What are your initial thoughts on this episode? The actual episode name of the episode was Amy and Dr. Everett, for those of you that seen it or don't watch it. But what are your initial thoughts on the episode?
I found the episode to be interesting. I feel is the word.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much the word that I maintained throughout the episode, mostly because of Dr. Everett. Just
Mm-hmm.
kind of seeing what he's about and what he's gonna do. So I was intrigued to see how it all unfolded.
Yeah. Um, my initial thoughts were I thought the episode was okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was um, garbage. I didn't think it was great either. But I know watching this episode, it did remind me of you.
Oh, how so?
Cause I was like, this bitch needs to die. This bitch actually fucking came up to my house and fucking pulled down my ladder. No, no, no. She got die. She had to go. I would have fucking killed that annoying bitch from the minute she started following me.
Yeah, you're what's her name? Amy, yeah, the
Amy.
Asian chick. Right.
Yeah.
So, um yeah, when I saw her, it was like, okay, she lost her arm, I noticed that, and then she was physically sick, very exhausted, which
Mm-hmm.
implied that she had been kind of drifting for a couple of days at least.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemed nice and she did have a sense of humor, but when she showed up in the way that she did, I kind of felt how Dr. Everett was annoyed by that, and
Mm-hmm.
that could possibly turn into something, um, because that's not good. Whenever you are in a position where either you purposefully annoy someone or you do it on accident, those tend to not have positive outcomes based upon my experience.
All right. All right. But she didn't annoy you?
Um, I wasn't so much annoyed by her as much as it was like, why does she keep messing with him? Like, I get that there's not a lot of humans around, but uh, humans like to talk about reading the physical cues of a person when they're
Mm-hmm.
having emotional reactions to your presence or something you're doing and or saying. and you're supposed to take that as a hint to stop, right, or whatever, or to continue. You know, they might give you the vibes that they like it, and you're supposed to read their mind and understand those cues as well. But I was just like, okay, so she's not listening, so maybe she's lonely and she wants a friend aside from, being sick. That's kind of what I was getting from her.
Well, she did end up saying that she was separated from her crew, right?
Right,
But
right.
my just initial shit was, yeah, this girl's annoying. Like she's not even leaving the dude alone. The dude's like, leave me alone. And she's like, no, I'm following her and stuff like that. So she ends up messing up, what he's trying to do, right?
Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah.
Um, so wait, when you said it reminded you of me, like what, like, are you talking about Everett himself or something he did, or?
No, 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 no. The fact that she was just annoying bitch, and she should have died.
Ah, I see. Okay, got
You know
you.
what I mean? Like she should have died.
Um,
She should have been like on the levels of them kids. Like fuck them kids. You know?
I got you. Now I see why you said that. Yeah, but I was just trying to make sure that I was seeing it in the way that you saw it. So yeah, Dr. Everett, like I noticed with him, okay, he was studying the dead. We
Mm-hmm.
find out why, and he was like trying to understand them and take all these notes. But he also wanted to be by himself. They
Mm-hmm.
they didn't show at any point that he had a desire for human connection or that he was even seeking out anyone in particular. It was like, let me
Right.
do my research, take my notes, and I stay in my own little corner of the apocalypse, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Right. And she ended up disrupting that. What were
Hmm.
your positives of this episode, though? What did you like about it?
It's a good question. I would say just because I didn't know where it was going, because the fact that Everett was by himself, like I didn't know if they were going to reveal like he had,
A
killed a bunch
family
of
or so. Oh.
individuals,
Mm-hmm.
right, and that he did horrible things to humans for the sake of for his research. I didn't know if that was going to be like some whole like, oh crap, because that can go either way. When you have individuals that want to be alone, there's the stereotypes of like, oh, they're weird, they're insane, they probably did a lot of horrible stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's the whole, it's none of that, they just are by themselves because maybe they couldn't find anyone else, or the fact that maybe they did have a friend or a wife or whatever, and then maybe it didn't go so well, so they decided to never do that again. So there's a lot of different ways that it can go. So I was kind of thinking about that, which, more or less kept it interesting, because I was like, I want to see where they're going with this, because it has to lead to something, because otherwise it'll just come across as very dry and
Mm-hmm.
safe in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a few positives in this episode where I was like, okay, I actually like the fact that, somebody's actually studying the zombies, right? Because we've never seen that before. Like, humans, we study everything, right? So
Hmm.
you would
Hmm.
find somewhere, some kind of scientist or whatever that would be trying to study these creatures, but no one has. So I said, okay, that's pretty interesting. And then to find out, that he had a whole crew of people that were studying them, I was like, okay, I kind of like that. I liked his character a little bit because, he wanted to be alone, wasn't taking any chances. I don't see a problem with that, right? I pretty much, if I didn't have a crew, I'd probably be like that too, isolated and like, I ain't fucking with nobody, you never know. But I'd probably have a crew though. So I enjoyed those aspects of his character. So I thought that was good. Um, yeah, go ahead.
The When it comes to his decisions to be alone, I
Mhm.
understand that, because there's a lot of times where I will decide to stay alone, even though, friends are just like, oh, come out and we'll get you. I'm like, no, no, get me tomorrow or whatever.
Mhm.
I can be very standoffish at times, even though I can also fully immerse myself. So it just depends, right?
Mhm.
But there's never a sense of like paranoia, because there'll always be the underlining, like, I don't like humans, I don't trust them. But at the same time, I also give them a lot of chances too. That's
Mhm.
another thing. I'm just like, okay, well, it's either going to be that they prove me correct or they prove me wrong. I would prefer it to be on the positive end. So like
Hmm.
I probably would have talked to Amy a little more, but I wouldn't have helped her though, because I don't know who she is or where she came from or if she
What her
just been
goal is.
right. So
Hmm.
that's it. So she would have got a little bit more conversation because I'd be curious, like, what are you human and where'd you come from and what's going on? And then she'd have been like, "Oh, help me, I'm sick." And I'd be like, "That's not my problem. Get off my property." And if she
Hmm.
didn't listen, man, sometimes in life she would have to be taken care of because I'm like, you're not gonna put me in
Hmm.
danger and jeopardize everything. And then everything was fine before you came, and next thing you know, a walker is chewing on my leg because what you want a friend? Like, what's
Hmm.
going on?
Yep. And then, like you said, right, she ends up going in and like pretty much almost breaking into the man's house, right? Where
Right.
the fact that he had to let her in, um, what is it she did? She did something. I can't remember. She did something to her.
She climbed up the ladder, right, and then she was sitting outside his door, and then she was just like, "Oh, well, you better let me in because if you
She
don't,
gonna.
then I'm gonna turn anyway, and then I'll be a problem for you when you open the door." Because she
Hmm.
knew that he had to come out that way, right?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I didn't care for that because it's like, okay, well, why would you want to put him in more danger by being in front of the door and you're a walker and then you making a bunch of noise, more walkers show up. It just seems like she was setting him up for failure while also trying to ask him for help and then on top of annoying him, that's really not the best way to get a human to respond in a positive manner.
Right. Right. And it was all because she needed help too, right? But you're now disturbing someone's life. You know what I mean? Whatever the life they have, that's what they're doing with it, and you're disrupting that. So I was just like, man, didn't really
Right.
like her character. But we can get into our dislikes. What did you not like about the episode,
It did
if
not
anything?
it didn't turn into like what I thought it would. Um in terms of revealing something about Dr. Everett. Like the stuff that they revealed is fine, but I wanted it
Hmm.
to go more into something crazy because then his actions would make more sense. Instead, it was just like, oh, that's understandable and that's fine and I get it. And it just, I kind of was done with it after that. It wasn't like, oh, I want to see more of his backstory or, oh, why did he turn out like that? Was he always like that or did something snap him? I feel like if they would have shown more, then it just would have made the episode better. But instead, it was very safe, which I did not care for because when you have a limited number of episodes, it's very important to make an impression every single time because you're limited. There should be
Hmm.
no it's safe or it's passable. I'm like, that's not good enough to warrant attention outside of you being connected to something that humans are familiar with.
Yeah. Um, I find the episodes seem like a lot similar in each way, right? Except for this episode two, but they're all
Right,
kind of similar in some kind of way. And I was just like, okay, two people getting together and doing something or this and that. And I was
right.
just like, hmm.
Male
Before
and
I,
female. Yep.
right.
Hmm.
And before I get into my dislike, is one thing that I did like about the end of this episode is when he went back to go look for her and she was a zombie already.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That was probably my favorite part just because it was like, oh, she didn't make it. And then he was just looking at
Hmm.
her like, I fucking told you not to. All right, yep, let me
Go
just
right.
tag her and move on my way. I'm like, okay, that's a little spice for you that it didn't work out because I thought it was just gonna be he would find her and oh we're friends and okay
Kumbayas.
I'll visit your
Hmm.
community from time to time like or she would be the only survivor and then they'd just be friends anyway or something.
Hmm. Hmm. I already thought her community was gonna be dead when she was looking for them, but then when she found them, right, I was like, okay. And then he's like, no, if you stay there, you're gonna die. And she's like,
Right.
oh, I'd rather die like that than to be like you or whatever. And I still wasn't thinking, I'm like, they'll probably be all right. But then he ends up going back and she's dead. So I pretty enjoyed that. That was a little ending in there that I was like, okay, well, it's not so happy ending on it, right? But what I
Right.
didn't like, and yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say one of the major things that I didn't like is okay, so he's researching the zombies, right? But then he's saying
Mm.
how, some zombies do certain things, and this one is it's finding the food, but it's not eating. And that's like, okay, that's a little bit like taking the zombies to a level that's not canon to the Walking Dead. You know what I mean? So I think they kind of did it
Right.
again with that one. And I was just like,
Yeah,
okay.
I thought that too. You beat me to that because I was gonna ask you how did you feel about that? But yeah, I thought
Hmm.
that too. Um,
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's weird because when they do stuff like that, you're changing the rules. I'm
Right.
like, the only time that I'm okay with rules changing is like you got to be the Flash or something, man. You know what I mean? Where you can affect so many things that
Hmm.
it makes sense as to why things are different and they explain it to you. Because
Yeah.
if that's not the case, you're literally dealing with set rules that you follow the whole time because you don't
Hmm.
have any of those other variables to where you can just change it like that. Because then you now have to look at everything else differently. Well, okay, so if they would have ran into these walkers or these people, then things would have been different. It's too different.
Hmm. Hmm.
You want
Right.
to keep
Because
it
we see
different, but not too different, right? So,
exactly because we see walkers like attack people all the time, and you never see one walker like attack somebody but then not eat it so the other ones can eat and stuff like that. Right. What this
right,
episode kind of saying is that some of these zombies have a conscience, right? Or they're intelligent,
right.
and we
It w-
right we already
which is
know that's not
which
the
is weird,
case.
right? Because
Hmm.
like we've seen walkers walk all over each other, move each other out of the way to get the first bite, right?
Hmm.
They're not
Hmm.
like on some whole, oh, so y'all didn't get y'all fill today. Let me, okay, you go ahead and eat and I'll eat the next one. I'm like, that's a higher level of thinking. That's a conscience. That's
Hmm.
intelligence. And I'm just like, now you're getting into the George A. Romero zombies, which are awesome, but
Right.
like they turned out to be able to use weapons and they
Hmm.
see you in a car. Remember the big black one? He was like, "Oh, you trapped in a car? Let me just blow it up. Then I ain't got to eat you." Like you're starting to get into that kind of stuff.
Hmm. And for those type of movies, like if that's what you establish at the beginning of your movies and stuff like that, I have no problems, right? I don't
Right.
think because I think I can't remember what I was watching, but someone was talking about something. It was a video, and they're like, "Oh, well, what are the rules for like vampires, right?" And the guy's like, "Well, the rules are depending on who creates it." You know what I mean? So I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with you if you're gonna say your zombies are a little bit smarter, then you can do that. But we've never had that established in The Walking Dead. Like they've never said
It,
anything like that.
exactly. Because to that great point you made, it was like back when iZombie was out, the DC show, and I
Hmm.
had humans asking me like, "Do you have a problem with that?" And I was like, "No," because in this universe, it's established that the zombies more or less they have all their human characteristics. They could talk, they
Hmm.
could laugh, they could do all these things. Sure, their skin is paler, their hair becomes white. We see that some of them will apply makeup to look more normal. They'll dye their
Hmm.
hair so they don't stand out and stuff like that as to not draw attention. And they got like the full on zombie mode when their adrenaline's pumping, and then they have just regular everyday blending in kind of person. And I'm like, that's fine because they already told us that from the very first episode that these are the
Right.
kinds of zombies you're dealing with. So that's fine. But like you said, if you establish it one way and then 10 years later you do something else, it doesn't make sense aside from the fact that you're trying to make something new, but it's almost as if you forgot about what came before, which is not good.
Hmm. Exactly. And you see, again, this show is not connected to that, and I get it, right? But at the same time, if you ever wanted to bring some of these characters, like if you find that fans are invested or like these characters, then there's certain ones you can't bring in there because you changed the rules of those episodes.
Right.
Right. So
I
now if you
agree.
bring them in, then people are gonna say, "Oh, so now the zombies can do this, the zombies can do that," or there's people have premonitions and stuff like that. It's just it's just pretty weird to me when they do that. So that's one thing I didn't like about this episode. Um,
Yeah, yeah, me too.
and
Because it's like
yeah,
how
go
I
ahead.
mentioned about the unwanted conversations that you don't want to have certain conversations. You want them to stay on the right stuff in terms of
Hmm.
what they've introduced. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the Asian girl didn't really like her too much. You know, I wasn't a fan of her character. Thought she was pretty annoying. But other than that, I didn't really have any other problems with this episode.
Yeah, I also didn't trust her either.
Yeah, I
I
thought
was
she
like,
was
I
gonna
don't.
do some shit too.
Yeah, especially since Everett was hesitant, and another thing too, when Amy, when she was talking to Dr. Everett, some of the stuff that she said to him, I've
Hmm.
had humans say that to me, like practically over my whole life, like, oh, I don't want to be like you and this and that, or I'm just like, that is so easy to say to be dismissive of a person's position.
Hmm.
Like you just showed up out of nowhere and you barged into his life and you're wondering why he's annoyed and he doesn't want to help you. Like you started off on the wrong foot because first impressions are important. You can never get that again.
Absolutely.
You can hope that the second impression wins them over. Like, okay, this is not indicative of who you are. Maybe you're having a bad day, you were nervous, whatever it is. Hopefully, the person is understanding of that. But her first impression to do was like, man, she's annoying. She doesn't listen, and she will put my life in danger just because she feels that I will then in turn do what she wants.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. You know. So yeah, I wasn't feeling that character at all. I wasn't feeling it at all. What are your overall impressions of this episode? I'm sorry. What is your grades for the episode? I should say.
Probably like a C plus, I'd say, solid C plus.
Is this the lowest grade you gave the episode so far, or did you give number two a lower one? Because I think that's the lowest grade you gave.
Probably. I don't quite remember, but I didn't really care for this episode. It was just like it was fine. Didn't really hate it. Didn't really love it. It's okay. And it kind of goes back to as I was saying earlier about you need to kind of stay away from it being passable at this point because you have too many individuals that no longer watch. And when you do something new and another spin-off and stuff, you have to up your game.
Hmm.
You have to give individuals a reason to give it a shot because otherwise they're going to feel like it's more of the same. And I think that's a mistake when it comes to limited material.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I didn't think. I understand what you're saying. They could have pushed the limits and stuff. I didn't have an issue with that. You know. But I completely understand where you're coming from. Um, and we missed, and then we had the episode that we originally supposed to talk about this week is episode 5, which was Davon. What did you think about this episode? What are your original thoughts or thoughts on what are your thoughts on this episode?
This episode is my favorite of the bunch.
Yeah, I had a feeling you would say that.
And because, like how I was mentioning with the other episodes, they were either they went through it too fast, right? Like with Alpha, went by too fast, and we didn't get to see everything we wanted to see, which was slightly frustrating. And then the other ones were just either too bizarre to the point to where it breaks the canon, or it was too safe. Like to me,
Mm,
this one it had a balance of like, oh, this is a different scenario from the other ones. And then the Devon character is interesting because it gave you this whole mystery. Like, how much of that was he imagining at first? And then what was real? Was he dreaming? Like, it made you think about all these different things. And I like that. And it's just like, so who did he murder? And why did he murder him? Did he murder him? Did he get set up? Like, what's going on with these people that he's with? Are they the crazy
hmm.
ones? And then, if so, how long has he or them been doing whatever it is they're being accused of doing?
Right, right. And my initial thoughts on this episode, I enjoyed it too. I think it is one of the best. And again, it's good to see his name Jesse T. Washington.
Right. Yeah. Guy that plays
Yeah,
A-Train.
it's good to see him in things now, because I think I don't think he's a great actor, but I think he's good. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this was one of the episodes that I was really waiting to see. When I seen the poster and I seen, oh, he's in one of them. Okay, I'm definitely interested in this. And I do think too, it's actually one of the best ones. I thought it was very entertaining, and there's another part in this episode that was like, yeah, that's something Terrence would have done. You know what I mean? That's definitely what Terrence would have done.
Wait. What part?
Huh? The
What part you
mercy
talking about?
part.
Like jog my memory because I'm trying to replay the whole episode in my head. Like what?
Well, when they find out who did it, right?
Right.
One of the girls says, "Yeah, show mercy," and then the other one's like, "Yes, mercy," and then starts fucking kicking him in the stomach, and everybody starts beating the shit out of the kid.
You know what? In terms of that kid, right?
Hmm.
I would have been a lot more brutal with that because
You see,
I'm like,
it's
first of all, I almost got killed because of this bastard right here.
hmm hmm
So not only would I have snapped up the kid, I would have killed all them too because now you're talking about it's betrayal. I'm like, so first we were cool, seemed like we were family, right? And all this stuff, and there was a certain level of embrace. But as soon as something felt weird, they're like, nah, let's kill him. Like it just, they weren't even listening to reason.
hmm
He
Well,
barely made it out of that.
you know why that was, right?
Yeah, I do. But, but it's just, I
it's,
feel like it's
it's the
just the
only
print.
black man there, bro. You know what I mean?
That's true. But it's just, it's the principle of the matter. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm
Hmm.
like, how important could I have been if you just are willing to kill me that easily? Now, somebody would try
Hmm.
to flip that around on me, and I'm just like, I would have to explain to them, assuming that they're willing to listen, that I think a certain way. This is very different. And I have like these set of rules and stuff that I follow for my life and all this stuff, all this complicated stuff that they're going to try to ignore. I'm like, that's not the same thing. Like, if you're dealing with these regular individuals and they just do something like that quickly, I'm like, I don't believe that you ever liked this person to begin with. You
Yeah.
did it too fast. Like, there wasn't like,
Hmm.
oh, let's hear him out, or are you sure? And then maybe over time, because it looked too shady, then they came to that conclusion. But it seemed like they're like, burn him at the stake, throw him to the dogs,
Right away.
let's crush him up right away.
Hmm.
Even
All
the
right.
chick that probably fucked him at some point because he had like some special pancake syrup or whatever the fuck he
Hmm.
had, and it
Hmm.
just, even her, she was just like, how could you? They were precious children. He was just like, did you forget about what happened last night between us? I don't understand where how you just joined them like that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. And my initial thoughts, like I said, I really enjoyed the episode. I think it is one of the best as well. What are your positives?
I like the mystery element, the fact that the plot itself was too complicated for The Walking Dead. I think that like that kind of plot you could use in a movie, like for a thriller. Like it just
Hmm.
be one of those thriller movies where the audience is just like, I don't know, he probably did it, and then you just end up with this huge twist at the end of the movie. That's what I felt like. It was like a really nice, intriguing, big concept that
Hmm.
was shortened because you're putting it in a 40-minute episode. It just seemed a lot bigger than the presentation that it was given. So with that, I like that because then that's a bold decision, and that shows that they put a lot of thought into that. Like they didn't want it to be just another run of the mill Walking Dead scenario. Like you really want the audience to participate in what they're watching.
Yeah. Um, I agree. I think my positives were, like you said, they took chances in this episode. They used the flashbacks really well, right? Because
Right.
at one point you're thinking, okay, maybe he did kill the girl because he's fucking handcuffed to something, and how did he get handcuffed to this zombie? So you really like, okay, maybe he did do it, right? And he has this bump on his head, right? Like for whatever happened when they show what happens, he bumps his head. So that's why he doesn't really remember anything that's happening, what's going on. And you're getting little flashbacks. You see him with the girl and the family. She's teaching him the piano, right? And then it goes back to real time and you see him locked up somewhere and it's like, fuck, he's trying to beg for his life. And he's telling them, I'm not a killer. You know what I mean? I would never kill anybody. You guys know me. And to your point, they were like, yeah, well, fuck you. You know what I mean? You did it, and that's all that matters. And I thought that was amazing.
Right.
I thought it was really
And
well done.
and my friend, I remember he had asked me, he was like, so if you somehow got amnesia, and because I was like, okay, so when you say that, are we talking about I don't remember a particular situation, or do I not remember who I am at all? Because that'd be very different. He's just like, oh well, you still remember you being Terrence, but you don't remember the details of a situation. Then I go, oh well, then I would just address the humans in the way that I would, which would be if they're like, oh, you killed the children, I'd be like, well, I've never killed children before. I mean, granted, I don't really care about children, but I've never gone out of my way to do something to them. So if I did indeed kill some children, I must have had a good reason for it, even though according to them, there would never be a good reason. But to that point, I'd be like, well, something must have happened because I don't see me just waking up on a Tuesday and doing this because it's never happened before. So why
Hmm.
all of a sudden? So I would address it like that. And then I also would be trying to figure out the details of the situation because I'm like, well, maybe somebody set me up. And then if not, and I did do that, then, maybe I need to pay for it. Unless, again, I feel that it were justified. So I feel like I told him that it's complicated and the details are very important. And I would go about it accordingly because I also have an issue with humans being overly violent with one another, even though I say stuff like, yeah, this person deserves to die or gets beat up and stuff. They have to remember that I'm talking about specific individuals, is the thing
Hmm.
that they have to understand. It's not just the nice lady across the street. Oh, she deserves to get beat down. For what reason? You know what I mean? So that's what I was trying
Hmm.
to explain to him. And when we correlated that with the episode, I was like, well, he's not me. He's Davon. So I he doesn't necessarily follow anything aside from the rules that they set. It seems like he has a love interest, so it's a bit weird to me that he would suddenly kill kids unless they reveal again that he did and he was always like that, but maybe when he joined the community he changed, but then maybe the craving came up again because that could happen too, right? Something that was
Hmm.
part of the past and you get that urge again. So that's why I found it intriguing because of the complexities of it could be any number of things that we just discussed before we got the answers, or it could be none of that. And then, like, what if the end is just like this, like jaw dropping reveal? Like, how did I come up with a million scenarios and all of them were wrong? Right. So
Hmm.
I think that the writers, they did their job in terms of making us have that kind of response.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. And again, like you said, they did a lot of things in this episode that maybe would have been interesting in like a Walking Dead series with him. And
Hmm.
that's another thing that I did like about this episode too, is that it was one of those episodes that stayed true to Walking Dead lore. So if A Train ever leaves the boys, you can bring him into the Walking Dead seamlessly. And people
Right.
got to understand. People got to say. Well, people say, "Well, if you bring them into The Walking Dead, well, then everybody will think that every one of these shows are part of The Walking Dead, and it's not because they're one-off episodes. So you can take one part of it and just bring that over, and still keep what you have with these. So I was like, that's good. And
But see, that's
I, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you first. You first.
No, I was going to say, but see, that's part of the problem because these shows are listed as the Walking Dead franchise. So even if they're
Mm-hmm.
one offs, they still exist in the same universe. It
Right.
seems to be that they pick and choose and they create things to cause confusion, especially more so in stuff that came after fear. And this
Mm-hmm.
could be problematic, especially for individuals that stepped away. They'll like if they see something randomly, they'll be like, "Oh, this is what it turned into." The answer is
Yeah, yeah,
no, but
yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of the problem. You should be able to jump in and go, "Oh, this is, it's still the same universe, just more of like when did he or she get here? Is this supposed to be before, in the middle, or after?" That's really the only questions that they should be having, not when did they get powers or when did the zombies start doing it. Those are the wrong questions.
Mm-hmm. 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 And I agree with you on that too, right? And that's why I say, like, some of the episodes, they just don't work, right? They don't work in the grand scheme of things. But
Right.
this episode does work. This one, the one with Terry Crews, those are the two episodes that you could like cross over with the actual Walking Dead and not feel away. But now it makes me wonder if they'll ever do that, because you know how people are. So you cross over one episode, everybody's going to think that all the episodes are in the universe, which means you have
Well,
those episodes with the preposition. Yeah, go ahead. You were going to say?
no, no, I was just like, but that's again like it goes back to the problem, right? Because it's like it's there, but it's like if you're going to bring them with the main characters, because those are side characters, that's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you
Mm-hmm.
decide to bring them over with Rick and Daryl and them, it's like, okay, well, what is going to be their contribution to these characters? Because normally they all serve a function. So those characters to me are a lot stronger in narrative to where they don't need those characters. Those characters would just be add ons. Like, what would they really contribute? I think they work better away from them and doing their own thing within the universe instead of just kind of clumping them with these A grade characters.
Yeah, but I'm sure if they did, they could put it in a way where you would, like A Train. I don't think they would go soft with him if they brought him in, and I think he could be um, an A character in the series. But I'm not just talking about like in that's in like a series where you bring him in to Fear the Walking Dead. You can actually create your own series with him, right, and still have it in the same universe. You can't do that with the Doctor one or with the two girls. You can't do that, because the minute you do that, now you're changing the rules of the zombies. That's all I was
Right,
gonna say.
but the only thing is that with the Devon character, because they already explored it, I feel like there wouldn't really be a point to him having his own series because you've already given us that narrative. Because they could add some stuff on, but if anything, they could have used that one episode and it could have been six. Like if you would have did that before they gave us this episode, I feel like that would have been appropriate because then you have six episodes to try to figure out what the mystery is. But now that the mystery is gone and you know that he's not a killer and stuff, it's like what else does he have that's going to be anywhere near as intriguing as that?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure they could write something. You know what I mean? They're writers. They can think of something that would intrigue people to watch it. So I don't. I'm not saying just because he had like such a great arc and a great story in this one that he can't have others, but the whole point of it is either or, right? These are characters that you can bring in or you could do something more with, and that's what I like about them. I don't like when they change it and make it to be like something else that doesn't fit the Walking Dead universe. That's when I have an issue with a lot of these ones, these
Right. They also
episodes.
need to be careful with putting out all these shows and stuff because you're
Watering it down.
not so much that per se, even though in some cases that is true. I just mean like in the sense that because the main one, The Walking Dead, which is the most popular one, a lot of humans don't watch it anymore. And they're definitely
Hmm.
not watching the other ones because they don't care about the main one. So I'm just like, the
Hmm.
more they keep doing that, you're just going to get people to go fuck it even further because they're like, well,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
only am I
yeah.
behind, but now there's like 10 million other shows. And it
Yeah,
just,
unless you do something like House of Dragons does and have people hooked right away, right? You'd have to do something where it's like, yo, you guys got to check out this new Walking Dead series because it's fire. Like The Walking Dead Beyond. If it wasn't for you, I don't know if I would have ever like even gave it a chance. And I like The Walking Dead, you know what I mean? but I just like, it doesn't seem like it was connected. And then when I found out it was, then I was like, okay, that's more interesting to me, and that's the
Right.
reason why I want to go back
And
and watch it.
and therein lies the problem. When you have to tell individuals to watch it, that means that there's no interest initially, or the interest is too
Hmm.
low. Like there
Hmm.
should be, when someone brings it up, they're just like, "Oh, I'm absolutely gonna watch it. Oh, cool. I'm glad."
Hmm.
You It's just like this. The hype is there, the anticipation. That's what you
Yeah.
want for your show or movie, for better or for worse. Whether it delivers or not, and the longevity of it, a whole different discussion. But that initial interest has to be there, because if not, then it's like it's basically floating on air. The only lifeline that it has is because it's connected to something larger, and
Hmm.
that it really
And it's
isn't going to function on its own. When you cut that line, it's just going to drift
right.
until it goes into nothingness.
And it's basically living off of fans like us who are real big fans of the original and haven't dropped off. You know what I mean?
Right. The stragglers, as they would call them. We kind of
Right.
just, walking around and stuff, like a walker.
Hmm.
We see a human, it's like chomp, 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 but they not necessarily as readily available and stuff like that. You're just kind of doing what you're doing because there is, in our case, us being fans, we're like, yep, so what's the next one? Okay, we'll watch it, and we like it
Hmm.
enough, and then hopefully it entertains us. But many of those other walkers, they already going to other states and countries. They gone already. They elsewhere. We can't really
Absolutely.
get them to come back and go, hey, there's some good food over here. Let's chow down. They're like, nah, I'm already in Texas or wherever they are. Like they're gone.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you would have to
Absolutely.
make a noise to bring them back, right? You see what I did
Hmm.
there? You have to
Hmm.
make a noise. That splash is very important to get them to go, oh shit, this is where we need to be.
Facts. 100%. And what were your negatives of the episode? Do you have any negatives?
I don't think so. Well, it's not a negative. I feel like it's more of a preference.
Hmm.
This one should have been longer. Like it's like I feel like the 40 minutes is good enough. Like at least it's not like 28 minutes like Marvel Disney Plus stuff. But
Right.
at the same time, because the narrative for this episode was so good, I don't think it would have been problematic to make it like an hour and 30 minutes. Because even when I mentioned that the concept was so complicated, that I could argue that it's more complicated than your standard Walking Dead episode,
Hmm.
in which
Hmm.
case that it can be a movie in itself, and it could be a thriller mystery. And those, when you do them right, they work really well with the audience, and they get other individuals to like, hey, you got to go and see this, and let me know if you figure out the beginning and this and that, and it sparks a great conversation. So I think, like the alpha episode, that this one should have been a longer one of the bunch.
Yeah. I feel you. And I've watched Walking Dead episodes that were like an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes,
Yep.
right? They've went over the hour mark, so they could have done that with this one too as well.
Just like
Um,
with Morgan, remember when he was getting trained by the martial artist that knew how to use the staff?
mhm,
Like that was longer than your standard Walking Dead episode, and it needed to be because of the kind of story that they were telling.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's been done before. So sometimes you shouldn't always look at, okay, well, our standard runtime is 40 to 45 minutes. Let's just stay within that. That's a rule that you created for yourself. Like if the
Yeah,
story warrants that, you're not going to necessarily get the fans complaining, because if anything, you're going to get the other side, which is, how come this wasn't longer, or I would have liked to have seen this. And then you realize, like, we could have did that, but we were busy focused on they all got to be the same length, which is
mhm.
not true at all.
No, I feel you. I feel you. I don't think they all need to be the same length either. I think if you have a story to tell and it's compelling, and you want to tell more of that story, then yeah, sure, go right ahead. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't mind watching an episode that's over an hour long.
Me,
I don't
me
have an
neither,
issue.
especially if it's good. Like how what they did. It's like with Stranger Things, right? It's like you got
Hmm.
50-minute episodes. Some of those things are like an hour, 20 minutes and stuff. I had
Hmm.
no issues with that, because in a lot of cases, I was like, how are they going to be able to tell this in this amount of time? And then it's over an hour. And that goes to my point that you can absolutely do that. And if
Mm-hmm.
you have individuals hooked, they're not complaining because it's more material. If anything,
Absolutely.
if it becomes a pattern, it could be surprising. Like, oh, I would have been fine with just one being this
Mm-hmm.
long, but you did practically a whole season like that, and
Mm-hmm.
we still ended up wanting more. So that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes you stepping out of the standard is necessary based upon what's being presented. You don't want to stifle your story by limiting it to, okay, this is where it has to fall in. Not necessarily. Sometimes that could be damaging and you could end up disappointing and pissing people off because you did not explore the areas that you could have explored because you're focused on it has to match this specific runtime.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm pretty much on the same levels as you. I didn't really have any negatives. I really didn't have any negatives. I mean, well, I think I could have one. There was one scene where they have my shit. What's his name? Jesse Washington, where they have him pinned up, right?
Oh
They have him
yeah,
chained
yeah,
up.
Davon. Yeah.
Yeah, Devon. They have him chained up, right?
Mm.
And his acting in that scene was kind of weak to me. Where he's like, "No, I didn't kill anybody." I was like, "You can do better than that, bro." You know what I mean? You're a better actor than that.
Oh,
So
you're
that,
I'm sorry, you're talking about his acting during that scene, right?
yeah, yeah,
Ah, right, right.
yeah.
Um,
When they had him chained up and they were about to crush him, right before they were about to crush him in the car.
right, yeah. Let me tell you something. When it comes to me, right, it's a
Hmm.
classic thing where, humans are just like, man, T, man, like, what's going on with your demeanor and this and that, and we can't read you and stuff. And I'm just like, regardless of what my demeanor is, I'm also very expressive as well. Like,
Hmm.
because my demeanor is a certain way, humans can more or less tell if I'm angry, if I'm happy, because you go from serious and, like, as humans would say, like a Terminator like demeanor to where when you feel something, it becomes very obvious because that's not what you're doing on a regular basis.
Right.
So it's very pronounced. The smile is pronounced, everything, and then the excitement is pronounced if it's there. So I'm just like, that character not being part of that, he should be able to convey more emotion. I'm
Hmm.
like our conversation right now has more emotion than what he had when he was getting crushed in a car. I'm like, because like you said, I was like, come on, man, like you had better acting as A Train, and you
Yeah.
weren't in a scene where you getting killed. Like when he was interacting with his brother,
Hmm.
it's like that he
Yeah.
felt like he was about to cry and shit when his brother was
Yeah.
like, "Get the fuck out of my house" and stuff. I was
Yeah.
like, that shit was good. Or when he grabbed that fucking the Blue Hawk, that racist piece of shit, and drug his
Uh-huh.
face on the cement, how mad
Yeah.
he looked. I was just
Yeah.
like, so I've seen what you could do. And even when he was in what am I thinking about, the Shaft movie, right? Samuel
Hmm.
Jackson, Richard Roundtree, he was
Hmm.
more expressive in there, right? You
Hmm.
you remember him in that movie,
I do.
the Shaft? Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's other examples where he's been more expressive. So that was weird to me. Like I'm surprised the director wasn't like, hey, let's do that again. This time be feel like you're actually gonna die.
Hmm. Yeah. I would have wanted. Yeah. I definitely would have wanted to get more emotion out of him for
Right.
sure.
Or some shaking or something. Because sometimes it's like I like based upon my experience when I was doing acting in Beverly Hills when I was a kid and stuff, there's a lot of things that they teach you, which is, you have your vocal emotion, you have
Hmm.
your physical cues where, if your character is supposed to be subtle, a sudden twitch or, the way you move your eyes and stuff, the audience can pick up on stuff.
Hmm.
Like I'll give you an example. So I'm not sure if you've seen that movie Soldier with Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you remember the scene where Kurt Russell's character and then the new enhanced soldiers, the ones that were bald with the tank tops, when he was fighting the main one at the top of the chains, and
Hmm.
then he elbowed him, and then he fell, and then the blood came out of his ears and stuff, and it
Hmm.
seemed like he died. Right? There was a moment where his platoon they glanced over at him and then quickly, got back into position. The subtlety of that, right? So
Hmm.
those characters, they don't have emotions and stuff like that. But the fact that for the first time they ventured out of what they're supposed to do to look at him like, oh shit, our boy just died, and then they went back. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. That wasn't
Mm-hmm.
vocal, but we knew that that meant something to them, that they didn't like that they,
Right.
you know, that he died, right? So there's ways you can do it. You can also have your body shaking, like, you know, you could be in a terror mode, like sometimes you can't vocalize stuff, which is a thing in real life too. They just kind of tense up and start shaking and crying and shit. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's so many ways that he could have did that, but he went to the whole no, my life, my life. I was like, this scene would have been so good if you would have did that differently. You know what I mean? It
Facts.
just it kind of took away
Yeah.
from it. So that was a bit weird to me. So it kind of in that moment it took me out of it because I was like, hold up, no, man, come on. Like so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that sentiment. There's so many ways that they could have handled that, and if anything, that would have generated a stronger emotional reaction from the audience if
Facts.
he would have
Mm-hmm.
convinced us that he was about to die. Because your job as an
Yeah.
actor is to convince us, whether you're playing a
Mm-hmm.
cheerleader, whatever you're doing. I need to believe that you believe that that's what you are. That's the difference between,
Absolutely.
you know, a person just being themselves and then versus just playing a character, or the difference between good acting and bad acting in a moment.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And what would you give your grade to this episode?
I would give it, in terms of a letter, give it an A. You know, so that's like in number form. That's a 9. So
Mm-hmm. And I think I'm on the same levels as you. I would give it a 9. Can't really give it a 10 because, like I said, there was some acting that I thought needed to be worked on. But other than
right,
that, I thought it was a great episode. How many episodes do we have left?
just one because it's been 5, right? Like I think they said it was
Yeah,
6.
that's 5. Oh,
Yeah.
there's
So.
only 6 episodes? Okay.
Hmm.
So the one that, because I was going to watch it, I'm about a week ahead of you. I was going to watch it, but I didn't
Yeah.
watch it yet. So that episode's the last episode. Okay, interesting.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. They
guys,
said.
next. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying. Yeah, they said it was a mini series. So yeah, it's very very many.
Do you think we'll get a season 2?
I don't think so because the way that these spin-offs have been going, they're not popular. Like with the World Beyond, that didn't work. This one, it was getting trashed with the few episodes that were given to critics and stuff, and then none of my
Mm.
friends are watching it. They don't even care. Like they specifically told me that they'll watch the final episode of The Walking Dead, but there was just not in my corner or even elsewhere have I heard interest in like Walking Dead like that. I think the Walking Dead final episode will create a spike because it's the curiosity of like regardless of what I've missed over the seasons, right? For individuals that stepped away years ago,
Hmm.
it's all about how does this end? Like what's going to happen? So that intrigue I think is universal for a lot of things. That's why you have like when a show first drops, the pilot is the most important thing because
Hmm.
if that don't work, nobody's coming back, your
Same
show
one for
fails.
sure. Yeah.
And then the ending is just as important because it's your final impression.
Hmm.
Like, did you come full circle as to what made this popular to begin with? So you never want to end your show or your movie franchise on a sour note because they will remember that more than anything else because it creates a level of disappointment. Even for the individuals that left, at one point, they were fans. So if
Hmm.
you disappoint them with the final one, it'll just be like, man, this shit was a waste of time, and that's why I left. And you don't want that. You want it to be like, hey, this shit was great. I stepped away. I don't really know what's going on, but so much stuff happened. And then if Rick shows up, they're like, wait a minute, I thought he died. And then, then that trends like you want it to have a positive reaction. That's what you want.
Absolutely. It's funny how many people think Rick is dead, though.
Right. But that's because they stopped watching. See, like, it's like, because a lot of my friends, where do we stop at? Because I remember when we first watched it, season 1, episode 1, I was at a friend's house, and there must have been like 20 of us there, Anzo. It was just like the whole house full and stuff. We all watched
Mm-hmm.
The Walking Dead, and it was great. And it was just like, we got to keep watching it. And then the show became a phenomenon instantly. And then it was just like, oh God, like our first season is really short. Oh shit,
Mm-hmm.
what do? We got to hurry up with another season. Like that's the best kind of case scenario, right? But
Yeah.
then I would say it must have, like in a lot of cases, it was like right after the governor. And then for the most part, it was right after Negan killed Glenn is when I noticed a lot of humans started to fall off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then I started thinking, okay, some of that has to be due to Glenn dying, but at the same time, it's like, well, wouldn't you want to see what happens after that? Like, it's really hard for me to find a solid reason as to why a lot of humans departed, aside from the main thing that I hear and that I've been told, which is it's not as good as it was.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from a moment or two that like, oh crap, but after that simmers down, then it's the whole So I think that's a problem.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree with you. Yeah, man. With that being said, we have one more episode to go, and then we're back. Do you know when The Walking Dead is coming back? Did they
October
announce that
something.
yet? In
October
October?
something. I want to say early October because what was it? We were watching the Davon episode. They showed the the preview real quick and
Mm-hmm.
Daryl and stuff. And it went by really fast. Like they didn't want us to see what was going on, but we could see some of the characters, and it had that kind of tension music, and then just returns October. So I want to say early October, but that is the pattern of The Walking Dead, at least for the last so many years, that it would always come out in October. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, that would vary depending on how quickly they could film it and stuff like that. And then once it's done, then that's usually when Fear the Walking Dead would start up. So like Fear
Right.
would either start up right after it's done, or when you get to like the last two episodes of a particular Walking Dead season. That's pretty much how they do, because they don't want the shows to kind of step on each other, I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
So usually they wait for the other one to pass, which is fine. I get that, but yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So at least Terrence should still be on YouTube for when that starts, so we can at least review that. That'll, and if there's anything else, if not, then that will be the final show we review together, but we will definitely be doing that. You want to shout out your channel real quick before we bounce, T?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember how many episodes is left of The Walking Dead. I'm pretty sure it'll be done because like there's only like a few left, right? Like the
Yeah.
back half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think
so
there's only like 8 left, maybe.
right, something like that, because it is a longer season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll double check on all that and converse and everything.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so you guys can find me on T Virus Terrence, and yep, I have some stuff that I recorded, and then I will schedule it to drop a lot of different reviews and things, and once that happens, then that's where it will be on that particular channel. But kind of like sitting on a lot of stuff. I'm trying to plan where I'm going to drop it and the days and times, and have it line up accordingly, more or less essentially getting it out of the way so I don't have to worry about it, aside from obviously in the moment kind of stuff, stuff that just kind of happens, and then maybe I talk about it. But other than that, though, for the most part, like the posts and the videos, that stuff is all like planned and scheduled and ready to go, or will be scheduled and ready to go.
Absolutely. So guys, make sure to check out for that. I am Bigger Ford Entertainment, and we are outie. Make sure to check us on Danny's channel for Square One, coming up in about 30 minutes. But other than that, it was a good show. T-Virus, thank you for popping on once again.
Yep, thank you for having me. Yep.
No problem. We are out. Peace.
Brainstorming, brains stay pouring all over the court. Check your trade scoring, a rational activist. Others remain dormant, factual passages able to wage wage war when time call for it. Burn fire upon corporate setting his back, so let's fall forward. See the big picture, don't get stuck on small portraits. Tap resources, your three inner forces. Mind, body, and soul working like piano chords, linking the piece together from the root like Neanderthals. Reserving animalistic behavior when I convert into the cross satanic spiritual savior. Words that I use are the truth if I never gave ya anything else in your life. Remember words that I breathe on this mic. I print people a copy to read what I write. Tell it fast like Mach speed on a bike. Like a native chief, I speak and bring peace with a pipe. Subtle as a thief in the night with beats in the light. Check the I'm blacking out like Slobodan Milosevic. Hold that, take some with you. Eternal pain when New Jerusalem hit you. Fall back, don't press the issue with script, lock, script check, Bethlehem officials.